Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the incredible world of the human reproductive system. Seriously, we're not just talking about biology class stuff here. We're looking at the actual blueprint of life itself. So let's get into it. It really all boils down to this one massive question, right? How does the human body manage to create the very first essential building blocks for a new life to even have a chance of beginning? It's a process that's just mind-bogglingly precise. And the answer to that big question? It starts with a single, very important word, gametogenesis. You can think of this as the biological starting pistol. It's what kicks everything off in both the male and female reproductive systems. Okay, let's dive into our first section, the blueprint for life, understanding gametegenesis. So what is it exactly? Well, gametogenesis is just the fancy scientific term for how our primary sex organs, that's the testes in males and the ovaries in females, produce something called gametes. You probably know them by their more common names, sperm and the ovum or egg. This right here is ground zero for reproduction. Now, the process actually has a different name depending on which system we're talking about. For males, it's called spermatogenesis, and it doesn't just happen from birth. It really kicks into high gear right around puberty, all thanks to a major surge in specific hormones. So here's how that journey works. It all begins with these immature cells that are packed with 46 chromosomes. But through this absolutely brilliant process called meiosis, which is a type of cell division, it essentially cuts the genetic deck in half. That number gets whittled all the way down to just 23 chromosomes. The grand finale of this process is a mature sperm, a spermatozoa, carrying exactly half the genetic blueprint needed for a new person, and that's the whole point. Section 2, the male system. Let's take a tour of the production and delivery machinery. Honestly, you can think of the male reproductive system as a super specialized piece of biological machinery. It's been engineered with one very clear, very focused mission: produce the male gametes and deliver them. That's it. And the two main stars of this whole operation? Well, first you have the testes. These are the production factories working around the clock to make sperm. And then you have the penis, which is the delivery mechanism. It's made of the special tissue that allows it to become erect, which is, pretty crucial for getting the sperm where it needs to go. But here's the thing. Sperm cells can't just make this epic journey by themselves. No way. They need food, they need protection, and they need some kind of liquid to swim in. And that's where their support crew comes into play. This support crew is made up of 3 types of glands. Their whole job is to mix up a batch of something called seminal plasma. And this isn't just some boring transport fluid. Oh no, it's more like a high-energy cocktail, packed with fructose for fuel, plus calcium and a bunch of special enzymes. The bulbourethral gland even add a lubricant to the mix. It's a complete life support and delivery system all in one package. All right, let's switch gears and look at the other half of this incredible story. Section 3, the female system, which is a true dual-role powerhouse. Yeah. Unlike the male system's laser-like focus on one thing, the female system is a master multitasker. It's designed for a whole host of complex jobs. It doesn't just produce the female gamete, the ovum, it's also responsible for supporting every single step that comes after, from fertilization and pregnancy all the way through birth and even childcare. So what are the key players here? Well, it all starts with the ovaries. They produce the ovum and also some really important hormones. From the ovaries, the oviducts, you might know them as fallopian tubes, act as a pathway to the main event, the uterus. And the uterus, or the womb, is where the entire incredible 9-month development of a new life can happen. And just think about how precise this all is. Once an ovary releases an ovum during ovulation, these tiny little finger-like projections called fimbria literally start moving and sweeping, helping to collect the ovum and guide it into the fallopian tube. It's an amazing bit of biological engineering to make sure it starts its journey going in exactly the right direction. Now, if we could zoom in on the uterus, you would see it's not just one solid wall. It's actually made of 3 very distinct layers, and each one has a vital job. The outer layer is a thin protective membrane. The middle layer, the myometrium, is this thick wall of smooth muscle, and this is the powerhouse that provides those unbelievably strong contractions needed during childbirth. And then there's the inner layer, the endometrium. It's the dynamic one, the layer that changes throughout the menstrual cycle, preparing for a potential pregnancy month after month. Okay, and for our final section, biology versus beliefs, we're going to use what we've just learned to deconstruct a pretty persistent myth. At the heart of this myth is a small, thin membrane called the hymen, which in some people can partially cover the vaginal opening. For, centuries, its presence or absence has been tied up in all sorts of cultural beliefs about virginity. So, what does the science actually have to say about this? Well, our source material is really clear here. The hymen is a delicate membrane. It can easily be torn by a whole range of totally normal, everyday, non-sexual activities. Things like a sudden fall, using a tampon, or even being active in sports like cycling or horseback riding. And that brings us to the most crucial takeaway. And this is a direct quote from our source. Let's just be absolutely crystal clear. In fact, the presence or absence of hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity or sexual experience. The biological facts simply do not back up this long-held myth, which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. When a simple biological feature can be so widely and profoundly misunderstood for so long, it kind of makes you wonder, what other facts that we all just take for granted might be based more on tradition than on actual reality? It's always worth asking the question. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.